What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Get Over Yourself podcast. I'm pleased to be sitting next to one of my friends from college, Jose Montoya. Jose is a lifelong entrepreneur, and he's going to be sharing his success recently with his shoe company, Otishi. A little bit about Jose. He is a Peruvian-born entrepreneur and the oldest of 7 siblings, which I want to dive into that. That's a story in and of itself. Jose immigrated to the United States at the age of 4. He's a self-starter with an unshakable drive, and he has launched 9 different businesses, 7 of which have failed within the first 3 months. But each setback sharpened his vision and resilience, accumulating in the success of Otishi, a venture that generated nearly $1 million in revenue in its first year, which is just absolutely absurd. We're going to talk about that in a lot of depth today. Beyond business, Jose is an avid traveler who has explored over 9 countries and finds inspiration in every corner of the world. A lifelong nerd at heart, he's deeply passionate about comic books, Magic the Gathering, and Lego, interests that fuel his creativity and problem-solving skills. Jose blends hustle with heart, always chasing growth and embracing the adventure in every challenge. Jose, thanks so much for joining us on today's episode of Get Over Yourself podcast.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for this episode. I feel like it's been a long time coming. We've known each other for over 5 years now.
Yeah.
This episode's going to be a really good one.
Yeah, we met at how did we meet? Like Sandbox?
Yeah, or Seed or something back in the day. Yeah, so it's been a while. But anyways, guys, super appreciative to have Jose here to talk about his story of an immigrant entrepreneur and who has created Otishi, an amazing company right now, which I can vouch for. And with that being said, let's jump into today's episode. So Jose, to start, let's hear a little bit of your background. You immigrated to the U.S. When you were 4 years old. Obviously, at a time you probably didn't really understand what was going on. Was that a chaotic situation looking back on it later in life, or did your parents handle it pretty well?
It was a little mixture of both, honestly. Like, I mean, I was 4 years old when I came to the U.S., so I obviously don't remember much about it, but I do have like little flashbacks, like parts of little memories. Like I remember sitting at home in Peru. I don't know how like the room looked like, but I just remember sitting on the bed talking to my mom, asking where my dad is. And she told me like, "Oh, your dad is in the US right now. He's doing BYU college there. He'll be back soon for us, And then I remember like flash forward, I'm in the plane with my mom and we're meeting my dad at the airport for like the first time after like months of not seeing him. And so yeah, it's kind of crazy, kind of like leading up to that, because it was me and my parents that are from Peru, and then my other 6 siblings were all born here in the States.
So you were the only one born in Peru then?
Yeah.
Okay. And even though with those flashbacks, did your parents ever make it rallies you up at night and you're just very appreciative of your parents for what they were able to do for you and your siblings?
Definitely very appreciative. I served an LDS mission in Kentucky, and we met this family who it was really interesting. Well, I met the husband. We talked to him for a second. He invited us over to his house. And when I got to know his family, it was him and his wife and a 4-year-old son as well. And they told me that they immigrated from Mexico as well. They just got here a couple months ago. And kind of like just seeing them and their like living style, and it was so weird because I just felt like this connection where I was like, whoa.
Like that's my story.
this is how I began. You know, this is what my dad went through as well. He was like roughly the same age as my dad, same age. My mom was the same age as her. I was the same age as him, and I was like, whoa, this is kind of like what my parents went through as well as young adults. Because he was like 22, and I was, yeah, it was weird. We were very weird.
And then looking back now, do you feel like the opportunities that presented itself, obviously, I'm assuming it set your family up for the success you've personally seen in Otishi. Do you feel like there's any setbacks that have come from the immigration? I know you were so young, it's hard to say, but for your family entirely, it might be interesting to hear.
Man, I don't think there were some setbacks. There was definitely scary moments growing up because we had our green cards. We did everything legally, and we always went to Canada to kind of like renew our visas. So there was one time where the lady at the visa in Canada messed up, and my dad got notified saying that, hey, the application didn't go through, something went wrong, you're gonna get deported in a couple of days to figure this out. And my dad was kind of like really worried. My mom was super like stressed out. I didn't understand what was going on. I was just playing Just Dance.
Yeah, there you go.
This was the time of Just Dance. Me and my siblings were like, "Oh, sick! We're gonna go back to Peru." That's gonna be kind of cool. But like they ended up figuring it out because my dad worked at BYU and he was one of like the computer guys there apparently, and they really needed him for the application process. So this is when BYU's semester was happening, so they couldn't afford to lose him. So BYU ended up getting their lawyers involved, helping my dad out, and it accelerated the process to get his green card and then soon our citizenship a couple years later.
That's awesome. So he had some very strong people in his corner trying to help him out.
Yeah, my dad was a really great, friendly guy, networked very well. That's how he got into like a lot of places.
That's awesome. So jumping forward a little bit, and we can touch back on your immigration background and stuff. It's such a unique perspective since you were so young. I feel like any of my friends that have immigrated here to the United States, it's always a different story, but it's a story of resilience at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that is like the perfect example of what makes an entrepreneur is resilience. And one other point that I read there in your bio at the beginning of the episode is throughout your entrepreneurial journey, you've had 9 different businesses, and 7 of which have failed at this point in time. So let's go through, if you can dissect 1 or 2 of them and maybe go through why they were a great idea in your head versus why they ended up failing. I feel like that would be very, very helpful to any of our listeners out there who have the entrepreneurial drive, but they just haven't struck exactly what they want to work on quite yet, or it just hasn't panned out how they were hoping.
Yeah. Oh man. I would say it all started with like my dad, I guess. He, at a young age, he told me like, it doesn't matter what you're doing, always like do better, just get started and then work on doing better later on. And so, and that came from like his experience immigrating to the US, when like he had his own business in Peru but he wanted a better life. And so he went to the US, applied to BYU, got in college here. And then his first job here was literally as a janitor, and he scrubbed toilets in midnight. He didn't care because he's like, I have to start somewhere, but I'm going to do better later on. And then that's where he moved from like a janitorial position into kind of like, what's it called? A cashier register. And then from there, he ended up getting an IT job as an intern. And then from there as a manager. And then from there as like, I kept on trying to get better. I got an IT job as well. And then I ended up getting an internship for engineering because that was my major. Growing up, my parents, they sacrificed a lot coming here. And they said, hey, you're going to go to college. You're kind of like the same thing other immigrants, you hear from other immigrants' parents, where it's like, get a good degree, get a high paying job, and get the benefits. Because that's what we worked for. That's what we sacrificed for you.
We put in the time. We moved across the world for this. Exactly. We sacrificed everything in our early days so you and your siblings could have something.
Exactly. And like they don't tell you that growing up, but like that's what you feel, and that's what you get silently as a message.
Yeah, I'm sure that's a lot of weight of pressure too.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna do engineering, okay, and I'm gonna work in the government because that's the best pay that I can see, great benefits, time off, all that stuff. And so I kept doing bigger and better until I got that internship for Provo City. And I worked there for like 1.5 years where I was like, wow, like this is great. I'm making good money as an intern. And I have so many doors open right now for engineering. I'm going to graduate in like 2 years, but I'm not satisfied. I'm not happy. This kind of sucks because I'm just sitting in an office looking at a screen and just working on this road and I feel no passion. I feel no excitement, And so I thought about what my dad said about always doing something bigger and better. And I thought, you know what, I could do better than this because I'm not satisfied. I'm not happy with my life right now. So I ended up dropping all my engineering classes, got fired because I'm not doing engineering classes anymore, and ended up just dropping my major with only 2 years left to go and decided, you know what, somebody along the way told me that if I want to make it big, I got to do business. So let's look into business. And so that's with that, I kind of just like went all in on there and saw kind of like what I can do next that was bigger and better. And that's when I learned about entrepreneurship. I learned about marketing, website building, drop shipping, And so that's kind of how I started with the first couple businesses. I love Magic the Gathering. And I got good, not just at the game, but at knowing when the card would spike up in value. And so I was able to kind of flip cards, buying ahead of time and then selling them for a profit. And so my first business, I was like, you know what? I'm going to sell Magic the Gathering cards. So I kept on buying a bunch of inventory and then reselling them.
Real quick too, explain Magic the Gathering. I understand the basic concepts. I've played it a couple of times, but for anyone out there who is like, I have no idea what this card game even is, give us the 30-second version.
Magic Gathering is like, I don't say Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh kind of mixed together, where it's like it's a card game with like creatures, spells, enchantments, and you have like this little base of mana where you can tap it, where you can put it to the side, and you're able to cast creatures, cast spells, and kind of attack your other opponents. It's just so much strategy behind it, because you can go just full assault and just attack the player, or you can play it more defensively, or you can play it more strategically, where you're like having them fight against themselves. It's a great strategy game, and that's I think why I really enjoyed it, because it made me like really think outside the box with it. And so, I mean, yeah, that's how you play Magic. And the cards, man, these are literally pieces of cardboard,
but they resell for a huge value.
Yeah, we're talking about hundreds of dollars for like one card. And for me, I was like, that's insane. Like, I didn't like. I mean, the only other piece of cardboard or paper that I know has that much value as well is just cash.
Yeah, the physical dollar.
Yeah, exactly. So I was just like, dang, this is an opportunity here. I'm going to resell this. And that went well, but it wasn't sustainable. And so I learned e-commerce, I learned drop shipping. And from there, I just tried. I kept on going. I didn't really prepare, because I don't have that mentality or personality. I don't like to like learn things beforehand and then try to implement it. I like to learn it as much as I need to learn to then get started quickly, and then learn from like trial and error.
Get a very, very base foundation and then kind of just go start building.
Exactly. Like, I'm not going to just like randomly just go onto Shopify not knowing what to do. I'll just go to YouTube, learn something quick, get the gist of it, and then get started on myself, because that's how I learned that. That's the best way to gain momentum, the best way you can actually learn.
Well, I like that concept too, because I have every single day I have somebody reaching out to me about some new business idea that they have. A lot of my friends have that like entrepreneurial spirit, but a lot of them don't have like the action it sometimes takes to actually get started. And I think there is, coming as a former Eagle Scout here, I think there's a lot of value in preparation and making sure you're ready for what's coming next. But also, if you use that preparation to a point of just almost like stalling what you're trying to do, stalling the inevitable, I think it could be a real downside to whatever you're trying to build. You almost got to balance like, okay, I'm going to go in, I'm going to research this, I'm going to experiment and grow that base layer, but also just kind of go for it at the exact same time.
I realized I was going to be good at entrepreneurship when my first professor gave me the assignment for my entrepreneurial journey. He was like, okay, for this class, your first assignment is to take a cold shower every day for a week. Well, I remember when I took that assignment, I was like, wow, that's kind of dumb. That's kind of stupid. Like, why do I need to take a cold shower? But then the first day I tried, I realized that I thought about it too much. And so when I turned on the shower, I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so cold. And I got in. I only lasted like a couple minutes, not even minutes, actually seconds. And I just left. And I was like, okay, that was hard. That was uncomfortable. The second day, I realized I'm like, you know what? I can't think about it. I just got to go do it, And so I turned on the shower, not even thought about it, and just went in there. And I lasted, And I did that for the other 4 days. And then I realized I started lasting longer and longer, to the point where I just got comfortable with cold showers, And that's honestly how entrepreneurship is. You can't think about it. You gotta just go in and do it. It's gonna be uncomfortable. It's gonna be hard. But the more you do it, the more like you start understanding that it's like, okay, this is always gonna be like crap, but I can handle this, and I can keep moving forward with all this crap.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite lessons I've learned throughout my entrepreneurial journey as well, is put yourself in very uncomfortable situations just to prove to yourself that even if you can't like go and succeed at whatever it is, you can handle the pressure and you can handle the uncomfortable conversations and situations that you may put yourself in. The cold shower is a perfect example of that. It's getting out of your comfort zone. It's doing something that nobody really ever wants to do. And then once you even step in and start doing it, it's not like it gets better. It still sucks during the process. But then after the fact, as soon as you turn that shower off, you're like, you have the satisfaction of saying, hey, I did that. Maybe I didn't love it, but I at least was able to accomplish something I didn't want to do and I didn't think I could do at the time.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, I mean, yeah, that's with that mentality, I got into drop shipping. I probably spent like $300 to $400 on each store, and I always gave I gave 2 limits. I'm like, okay, I have $400 per store, and I have 2 to 3 months to do this. If it doesn't go anywhere within the next 2 to 3 months, then I have to move on to the next idea, And I
was
did
that
that.
just like a self-imposed limit, or what was
No,
the idea with like the 2 to 3 months?
it was definitely self-imposed. I gave myself 2 to 3 months just because I didn't want to wait. You know, I I knew that failure comes quick, but learning can take a while. Learning is up to you. You know, whether you learn it fast or whether you learn it slow. And so I realized that, like, hey, I can fail quickly because I'm just trying this for the first time. But if I'm going to fail quickly, I also need to learn quickly because then I can move faster.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm all about moving faster, getting things done as fast as we can, and just kind of like getting things done that we can do like in a year within the next 4 months, you know? So that's how I went through like multiple different drop shipping businesses and I spent hundreds of dollars, you know? But at the end of the day, I thought about it. I'm like, I'm going to spend maybe what, $4,000 or $5,000. That's like one semester at college. You know, I'm already going to spend that money in college and on art history classes.
Yep.
You know, that's not really going to help me at all. I might as well spend the same exact amount on stuff that actually is going to help me
I
and get
love
me to
that.
the life that I want to live.
I love that. I feel like sometimes people always pin entrepreneurship or these early ventures as a huge time suck and a huge cost that goes up front. And yeah, I guess depending on whatever venture you're going after, it can be expensive pretty quick.
Mhm.
But you can find very, very low cost solutions to go out and do it, especially when you're pinning it against, okay, here I am. I can go, take this other college class, which you're going to do if you want to graduate, or I can kind of use some of the same cash I would have spent on something I don't really care about and actually put it towards something useful, rather than just going and checking off the box because my college report card says I have to go and do it.
Mhm.
I'm going to go and just build something for myself. I'm going to go test it and use those experiences. Hopefully it hits. If it doesn't, great. Didn't put a whole lot into it. Didn't put a ton of time or cash. I'm going to move on to the next thing.
Yeah, exactly. And like half the time I didn't really have the cash to do it. I just put it on a credit card, but I always found a way to like get it done. Like I'm not saying go on credit card debt. I hate credit card debt and stuff, but like I knew that I could always pay it off with like my paycheck that was coming in from work or from other stuff from doing DoorDash. And so I always found a way. I didn't just like have like, oh, I can't do this because I don't have the money yet or I don't have the time yet. It's like if it's important to me and I actually am serious about this, then I'm gonna find the time and I'm gonna find a way to get it done.
I like that because too many people also limit themselves to saying, okay, I would do it if I didn't have all these other expenses or I didn't have too many things going on inside of my life. But you're like, no, I'm going to make this my priority, and then go and figure everything else out after the fact.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So after a couple, and like I said, I failed like I had 5 different drop shipping businesses that failed, e-commerce stores, website building, you know. But from each failure, I learned and I got better, you know. And I started realizing like, okay, this is how you make a good website. This is how you make a good ad, creatives. This is how you find a good product. And up until the point where I finally was able to like really figure out like, okay, a good product is something that's unique. A good product is something that like can differentiate from other competitors, but can also be attractive, has a good price point. And that's when I stumbled upon like this baby shoe. And it was like a sock slip-on shoe. And I noticed that the price was super cheap getting manufactured, and other shoes are selling at around like a $30 price point. I was like, okay, I can do something with this. And this was like my 8th business at the time. And I created a website, did some marketing, and it just took off from there. And that was like I would say my first kind of like success as a e-commerce owner, you know, stuff like that, getting like 10 sales a week. And I was like, oh my gosh, we're doing it. We made it to the green, you know. I made like $40 that week, and I went to Texas Roadhouse to celebrate it and
spent more on on your meal than what you made. I love it.
Exactly. Oh man. But no, yeah, and it just kept on growing, and I ended up bringing my wife on board to help me out. And my wife is like, I definitely married up. She is a lot smarter than me. She was like valedictorian in her high school. College was all paid for her because she was that smart.
Scholarships,
Everything like that. And meanwhile, me, I got like suspended from high school twice for plagiarizing on essays. I graduated with like a 3.5, 3.6 GPA. I failed the ACT like 4 times. The highest I ever got was like a 22 on the ACT. And yeah, somehow I got into BYU on my first try. So yeah, I'm not book smart, but I would say I have street cred. Like, I try harder, you know? And so, but I knew she was really smart. She caught things on quickly. So I had her do ads for me. And she was doing great. She crushed it. And it wasn't until like 2 years later, it was like growing and growing still. But I realized that was a big disconnection with me. I wasn't as passionate again. I kind of found myself in the same spot I was in with the engineering. And I realized it was like there's product market fit, where you want to make sure that you have a product that fits the market of specific customers. But there's also this thing called founder market fit, where you want to make sure that the founder aligns with the product, aligns with the brand. Because if not, if you just throw in a random founder there, you can get the operations done correctly, like the QuickBooks, the finances, the logistics, and stuff like that. But there won't be really that much strategic growth because he won't know what the customers want. He doesn't really care or isn't connected with the product itself, the brand. And that's where I found myself at, where I was excited about the entrepreneurial journey. But as time went on, I just wasn't as passionate or excited about like the actual customers.
Well, and it's not to say that you couldn't go out and, speak to those customers yourself and go find out what kind of products they're searching for next or what iterations. You could have that power, and you did have that power, but it just didn't excite you as much anymore.
Yeah, like it was enough to kind of like get started and grow. But by the time that I started realizing this, we were probably doing like around 500,000 a year in sales. So it's like it already was at a point where it was growing sufficiently profitably, where I was like, okay, I want to do something more that excites me, that I can like know that I can like go hard with it, So I ended up talking to my wife. She was more excited. She connected more with the audience because it was a bunch of moms, women and stuff with kids. And one, I'm not a mom at all. And we don't have kids, but she really likes kids. And so she was able to connect more with the audience. So she kind of like took over. I kind of like let her have the business. And I decided, well, I guess my next business is I'm going to buy it, And so I decided to go online and find a business that I could buy. And I ended up finding a axe throwing business. And I thought that was going to be the sickest thing ever.
Tell me this real quick, too. I mean, my brother is in the process of doing a whole search fund right now where, you have dedicated investors and you're going out and you're contacting these business owners. So I asked him maybe 2 months ago, I was like, this, like, to me on paper, never having done like a search fund or the whole entrepreneurship through acquisition, I'm like, what is there just like some marketplace online? You go, I want to buy a business. And then a seller goes, I want to sell my business. And he goes, no, it's not like that at all. So where'd you find out about this axe throwing place to begin with? What was your background in it?
Okay. I definitely did not do it right. I am not the best person to go ask questions on how to buy a business, because the best way I could describe it, it's like you can either like get like, no, how do I say this? No, I'm not gonna say that. That's kind of crude. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't do any research. I just went like, I want to buy a business online on Google, and a bunch of like websites came up on like how to on just like businesses for sale.
Yeah.
And I just went through them like it was like a Facebook Marketplace. I found one that I really liked. I messaged him, and then he sent me over some finances of like, this is how much revenue we did. And I was like, okay, cool. I like the product too. Here's $7,000. And I just sent it to him. And then he sent me the stuff. I didn't do any research. Like I understand with ETA, you have to do all this amount of research. You want to make sure it does this, the X, Y, Z, it's just sustainable. I skipped all that. I just went in and did it because I was like, it's just buying a business. I buy magic cards all the time. Why
it's the same thing, right?
Yeah, it's the same thing. Yeah.
Not in the slightest.
No. I bought the business. I spent $7,000 and then an extra $5,000 on inventory. And I actually got my dad involved to kind of like help me fund it and everything like that. And when we got the product, it was nice. It looked great. And then when we tried to sell it, I realized, crap, this is an axe. I can't sell it through Facebook ads because it's considered a weapon.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, oh my gosh, what do I do? Like, I just spent like $5,000 on inventory and $7,000 to buy it. Now another $3,000 on ads, that just went nowhere because I couldn't sell the product. So I'm like $15,000 in the hole with this. $10,000, if not $12,000, was like from my dad. So I like literally got him into like just lose all his money basically. And at that point, I was just like feeling like super defeated. I didn't know what to do for like a couple months. But eventually I kind of like got myself out of it and kind of continued on. I was like, okay, I messed up. It didn't go well. I lost a ton of money here. Probably one of my biggest like setbacks and failures I had, but I had to keep moving forward, And so I try to do different things with it, try to sell like rings to like the people that like Viking axes and stuff like that. And that started kind of going somewhere. But ultimately I decided, you know what? I need to go back to school. I took a year off before that. And so I decided I need to go back to school and I need to kind of start like looking for more opportunities, because I can find by surrounding myself with people that are looking for like opportunities that are on like the grind, I'll be able to see things that I wouldn't normally see and learn things that I normally wouldn't learn by myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to go back to school, and that's when I was still working on like the rings for the Viking axes and stuff. But that's when I got the idea for Otishi. That's when I met my co-founders, where I did Sandbox, got to know you, and that's where like a lot more like things came out of, rather than just try to do entrepreneurship by myself.
Mm-hmm. So let's dive in. There's a lot to pick and prod at that. Out of every single one of your businesses, it seems like there was kind of two factors. Number one, you dove in so much that the product was like, or whatever solution you were solving was like semi there, but it just wasn't scalable. Sure, you can go and resell magic cards your entire life, but that's mainly more of a side hobby. It's something you can make side cash on the weekend. It's not sustainable as a full-time business. And you had other ones where you dive in and you actually had product market fit. Your Memoir Kids was booming. You're selling these sock shoes to these young infants. It's great for the parent. You don't have to put on shoes and socks. You just put on one. They're machine washable. Really killer product. And they're cute and moms just love them. The kids wear them all the time. Awesome. The business was booming. You guys were getting it in college. You were getting it to almost $500,000 a year in sales. And you just didn't love it. The product didn't resonate with you after some time. And you said, I want to be done. Pass it on over to your wife. She loved the product. She was growing the business still. And then you get to this point where you go, okay, if I don't want to start something of my own, maybe I haven't found anything that I like doing myself, I'm going to go buy something that somebody else has already made. They already proved out the concept, or at least you would hope so. But then the diligence side was really difficult. You went in kind of head first, like every entrepreneur has tried at some point in their life, and you learn the hard way. Oh crap, maybe this isn't as scalable as I possibly thought. So overall, it sounds like a lot of your quote unquote failures have come down to either A, you just didn't love what you were doing, and so you're like, it's time for a switch, or B, it just came down to the diligence and preparation side. So it sounds like to me, you almost got to mass those two together. And it's like, okay, we have to spend enough time in this to make sure it's going to be feasible. Not just on the product standpoint, but also to make sure that I'm actually going to be passionate about this 6 months from now, a year from now, 5 years from now, and see if the journey will still take me there and still get me excited to wake up every day. Is that fairly accurate?
No, yeah, I think that's very accurate. I'd also add like, you have to get kind of like you have to have a strong relationship with like the sense of failure. That's how like a lot of the failures I've had weren't from like the business not working out, but was from my mistakes and learnings. But I mean, that's how life is. You make a mistake, you learn.
Yeah.
And just like like I said, I wasn't the best student growing up in high school, middle school, stuff like that. Even in college, I failed so many classes, but I got so used to failing in school that when I tried things and I failed, it didn't really bother me as much, because I just tried again. I just kept on trying and trying again, because ultimately I didn't get caught up on the failure. I was more focused on the point that I was trying to get to.
And I feel like every failure you went through also got you one step closer to the success you've seen now with Otishi.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, with like the Viking axes, if I didn't fail with that, I probably wouldn't have gone to school, gone back to school. But because I failed, I had to go back to school, and that's where Otishi kind of like came to life.
It's so interesting too, because on paper you can look at those and just be like, I'm such a fool. Why on earth was I doing that? And it's easy to look at the $15,000 you spend, like in relative terms, like starting a business, you look and you go, I learned for $15,000. I'm sure now you look back on that and go, that's the greatest $15,000 I've ever spent to learn that it didn't work out. And you learn that very quickly. But to a college student who's broke, who needs every dollar to their name, that is tough money to lose. $15,000 is no joke. And so at the time, it seems like it's totally destroying your life, but it's just those tiny little things that are gonna build you up to whatever you're actually supposed to be working on in that time. So let's dive into it a little bit now. So if anyone's watching, you want to actually kick those off real quick. Jose is wearing his product right now. It's a gym shoe. It's machine washable. So a lot of the same concept that you had with Memoir Kids at the time, where it's kind of a barefoot sock shoe. You can wash it. You can wear it around, and you guys kind of found your product market fit in the gym industry, in the weightlifting industry, because it's the zero drop. I'm basically pitching your product. You can do much better than me here, but you guys built this this sock shoe that is great for the gym.
Yeah.
So give us the general overview of Otishi, and then we'll kind of dive in from there.
Yeah, well, I mean, like you said, it's a gym shoe. It's great for like athletes that are really wanting to take that extra like edge in their performance. I got the idea when I was at school, and I got a lot of feedback when I was doing the baby shoes that like, oh, you should make these for adults, you know. But like I was like, these look like little clown shoes. I don't think adults want to wear clown shoes, you know. But I saw this other brand that was making adults like slip-on shoes that would look like socks as well. And I was like, man, those are so ugly. I bet I could do something better. Because like with the baby shoe company and with the Viking axes, I developed a lot of connections with like manufacturers in China, a lot of logistics. And so I was like, okay, I know people that I know I can make a better product with. Let's make a better product. And so I quickly got together. I photoshopped a bunch of like a random picture of what I thought the shoe would look like. Quickly got up a website, put the pictures on there, ran some ads, and talked to people like, hey, would you buy this shoe? You know, and people that said yes, I said, oh, awesome. You know, I'm actually manufacturing these right now. I'm in the process of them. Do you want to buy them for $25? You'll get them in like 6 to 8 months. And the people that were actually like serious about the product would buy them. And that's how I kind of got to see whether people really were like kind of like BSing me saying yes, or if they actually really wanted the product.
Yeah.
And so that's how I got started with that. And I ended up getting like 25 sales, making a couple $100. And that's when I realized like, okay, sick. This is a product that people like. They think it's cool enough to get started. I'm going to go with it. At that time, I knew I didn't want to do business alone. Just from like all the different types of businesses that I've had, I knew that I work better as a team. I work better with co-founders, and I know what my strengths are and what my weaknesses are.
Which is the more important part.
Exactly.
Know what your weaknesses are.
Exactly. And so I knew that I needed somebody that could be creative and that could also help me kind of like, that has like the artsy skills on making like things look good. And then I needed somebody to kind of be like my number two, somebody that is more analytical than I am, because I tend to like have things drop on the side that I forget. So somebody that can catch that stuff, but as well like be like really have that drive and hunger as an entrepreneur, you know. And so that's when I met my co-founders, Bentley Reynolds and DJ Taylor. And these two were also like super hungry on entrepreneurship. They wanted a chance to like get their start. And so I knew DJ was super creative because he worked at the Slab at BYU and just had like all these like great designs. And so I had him like, hey, I know you're trying to get into your major. Why don't you use this project as a part of your portfolio? And he did, created some cool designs, and he ended up coming to me and it's like, hey, I really like where this is going. I want to be a part of it as well. And I was like, awesome, sick. I already wanted you in the beginning, so this is going to work out great. Bentley, I knew him a bit before DJ, but he was a smart kid, very savvy. And so I liked him, kind of like having him be kind of like a second brain of mine. And so we brought him along, and he ended up choosing the name Otishi because we wanted to do something that kind of like Cotopaxi inspired, where a portion of our revenue goes back to kids in Latin America and help them out with their education. And so he ended up finding a national park in Peru, because that's where I'm from, named Otishi. And we're all three of us are like anime fans. And so we're just like, this sounds like a cool Japanese Latin America thing. So we're like, yeah, let's do that name. And so, yeah, that's how we kind of started getting the product made, how we got the name of the business. And then what ultimately led us to our market was DJ is a big bodybuilder. Like, he loves working out, and he saw that like, hey, these shoes would actually be really great for weightlifting. And so he went out and took him to work out with, and then created a TikTok that ended up getting a lot of engagement and a lot of comments of people like, hey, where can we buy those shoes? Those look like cool shoes, you know? And at that time, we just had a sample, like one pair. They were size 11, and he was like a size 10. So they were like huge on him. But it was like, oh yeah, like these are actually great for workouts, you know, because they have a wider toe box and it's zero drop and it's machine washable as well, you know, all this stuff. And when we saw like some engagement coming from that, we're like, okay, let's push on this a bit more, you know. And we ended up going randomly. Like he found a what was it, like a gym event in California with a bunch of like influencers that go to the gym and stuff. And he was like, hey, this is like next week. Let's go there, bring our sample to them, and see what they think. And we were like, all right, let's do it. We all just hopped on my car and we just drove there. Like, this is spur of the moment. We didn't have this planned at all. He just found an event in California and we drove there. We ended up talking to a bunch of influencers, showing them our shoes, got some really great feedback. But ultimately, we found one influencer. His name is Max Taylor, and he had like over 1 million followers and stuff. We got it recorded of him like checking out our shoes, and he liked it a lot. And we posted it on TikTok that night, and that ended up going viral with over millions of like likes, follow, engagement, comments, and stuff like that. And tons of people all of a sudden just like registering on our email list, wanting to buy the shoe. And so that's kind of like what took it off and really helped cement us as a gym shoe.
And so you guys go, I love the scrappiness behind this too. You go, okay, I want to take this this version of the product that I didn't really resonate with, and I'm going to try and repurpose it for an audience I can actually resonate with and I would enjoy working with.
Yeah.
You didn't necessarily know at the time it was gym goers, but it was adults at least. It was people that you could work with because it was your lifestyle.
Yeah. This is all within like 3 to 4 months.
Yeah, this is all quick. Oh, if we haven't learned one thing on this episode, it's that Jose moves quick, right?
Yeah, like we had the idea of March. It was in like July that we got it validated with like the influencers and stuff like that.
So very, very quick turnaround time. You find your co-founders. It's people that were in your network, which is very, very powerful. Can work out to your demise or work out to your strengths. And in this case, it totally worked out to your guys' strengths. You go, you build up the product. You say, all right, we're just going to go and test it out in this market that we've seen a little bit of traction with. It's not like you had much to go off of, but we're going to go out and test it. You show up to this conference. It absolutely goes amazing. You get this early virality, which is the reason a lot of products succeed. Physical products these days succeed with that early virality to make sure that you're actually sending it to the right audience. And from there, email list grows. And then what's the next steps? You guys still had to go out and work with manufacturers. Tell us all the ugly and the good inside of that after that San Diego event.
Yeah. So like after we got all those people excited for it, we decided to launch a Kickstarter because we figured out that was the best way to kind of start getting our product on the market and getting sold when we didn't have any cash. And so we relied a lot a quick like deviate. I'm a big like voice for school, you know. A lot of people that are doing entrepreneurship always wonder like, oh, should I drop out of school?
Yeah.
Oh, should I like drop out and go and start my business because I can get more done, you know? And I don't know. For me, I don't know if I can or can't swear. I always think that's a bunch of bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, why can't you do both? Like, if you really want to be successful in business, then you would do both because you would realize of the resource and opportunity that is there for you in school that you would not be able to touch or even like use at all if you were just doing things outside of school. Like through BYU, we were able to meet through so many entrepreneurs through the business program. We were able to receive $27,000 in like grants and academic funding just to start Otishi, you know. We got so much support. Shit, we got so many lunches because like they fed us so many times, you know. And I mean, Otishi came from me going back to school, you know. And so I'm still like working on my classes, you know, and I have like a couple classes left before I fully graduate. I already walked though, but it's like there's so much value in going to school that if you really are serious in entrepreneurship, you would figure out a way to do both and you would get started now, you know? And so anyway, that's just my thing with school. I always hear a lot of like, oh, should I go into school or not? But that's what my thoughts are. I mean, that's also how I found my co-founders too.
Yeah.
But anyways, we got started with Kickstarter. We used the funds that we got from BYU. And with that email list as well, we were able to generate like around 50 to 60K in funds from Kickstarter to launch our shoe company. We got that fulfilled. And just like that was a whole learning process because it's like through every failure, you learn, but through every success, you start having to adjust because, you've never gotten that far. That was my first time doing a Kickstarter, and learning how to fulfill orders from Kickstarter to Shopify was a learning adjustment. Doing over 60,000 in sales and making sure that people got the right pairs and right sizes that they wanted was a learning adjustment. And so we ended up fulfilling those orders in March that following year, 2024. It's only like 6 months later. And we started running sales that year as well. That was the first month we started doing sales because we fulfilled all the orders and we made sure to order extra pairs to kind of keep on selling. It's kind of like ride the momentum. And at the end of 2024, we ended up doing almost $1 million in sales.
That is awesome.
Which is like the most I've ever done, because like the biggest success I had from there was the baby shoes. And I did like maybe 100,000 his first year, 200,000 its second year. And then here's Otishi that did $1,000 from March to December.
That's so killer.
And so and I learned so much from there, from like the logistics, the operations, taxes, all the stuff that I was already kind of aware of, but I had to learn even more now with this rapid growth success.
That is awesome. So you moved very, very quickly. You found this audience that was actually resonating with the product and you just went all in on it, and it clearly worked. I mean, to get any entrepreneur out there knows, to get your business off the ground and surpass kind of these milestones of, first sale, then first 10 sales, then first 50, 100, and, and then stack all the way up to your first million. It's a feeling that you can never really forget. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So what's the long-term vision of Otishi? You guys have been going for over a year and a half, almost 2 years now. What's the long-term vision? Where do you guys see the brand going? Tell us real quick a little bit about the product iterations as well, early product compared to where it is now, compared to where you hope it is in 5 years from now.
Yeah. So I really want Otishi to be a staple in Utah. I want it to be one of those brands that like the state can kind of be like, oh yeah, this is our company.
Yeah.
Kind of like how Nike was for Oregon. And so I kind of want the same thing with Otishi. And that means that we have to grow consistently, profitably, and fast, And so next couple of years, I'm hoping to just keep on doubling in revenue size, brand size, and really focus on establishing like a connection with our customers to the point where it's like we want to create a feeling that really empowers like underdogs, people that are wanting to get back into the gym, wanting to like achieve their potential, that may not be in the best position in life right now, kind of like I relate a lot to me, because this is where I say founder market fit, because like I wasn't the best at school, I was definitely an underdog, but I kept on going and I kept on hustling and I kept on working hard because I knew what I wanted. And that's what I want Otishi to give off, that same feeling, those that are feeling like underdogs, that are struggling in either health, either in academics, in life right now. I want them to put on these shoes, feel that power, feel empowered, and try hard and keep on going hard, because they know that they're going to get to ultimately where they want to get through their own grit, through their own strength,
That's awesome.
So yeah, we want definitely Otishi to become that brand in Utah. And that just comes with growth. We're working with a lot of shoe designers right now, kind of like getting it more professionally done. Because the first version that we launched on Kickstarter was literally just my version of what I scrapped up together in Photoshop.
Yeah.
And then with some of the funds in the very beginning, we ended up getting a shoe designer to kind of help us create a version 2 that now has our logo on our product, has a better knit pattern. It's a more comfortable feeling. And now we're going to work with another shoe designer to kind of create different iterations of the V2, as well as like different brandings.
That's awesome. So in 5 years from now, where do you hope Otishi will be in terms of revenue, team size, things like that?
5 years from now, I want it to become a $20 million business, and I want it to stay lean. So just with like a team of 5 people or less still. And I want it to be a product that you can go to the gym and you can see people wearing it.
Which is actually here in Utah starting to be the case. I will show up to my local gym and see people wearing Otishi, which is the coolest thing. I wear it when I'm doing my leg day workouts and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's cool. I've literally had people I've gone and this is probably about a month and a half ago. I was wearing my Otishis after a leg day, showed up, I was sitting in the sauna, and a guy looked at the shoes and went, what are those? So I said, pull out your phone right now. And I pull up your guys' website and showed him everything. It's really cool. The product you guys have designed, it's a statement because it's a footwear that people aren't used to seeing, but now people are becoming used to seeing it, at least here in the state of Utah. People are getting used to seeing it because it's a staple for leg day at the gym.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something I've like started to kind of like learn and really appreciate with like the product and the branding. And it's something that we're gonna try to like lean in on more, where it's like we're gonna say it's not a shoe, because everybody that stops us and always sees our product was like it's always that same question: what is that?
Yeah,
it's not a shoe.
It's a shoe, but it's not a shoe. Yeah.
And so we're gonna kind of like Liquid Death in their branding. We're gonna ride that, where it's like, Otishi, it's not a shoe, but it feels like it, and it'll have the same benefits as a shoe, but it's not your regular shoe.
I love that. I love that. Well, guys, if you enjoyed today's episode of the Get Over Yourself podcast, as always, the episode will have links in the description. So if you want to check out Jose's social media, the Otishi website, anything like that, go ahead and check out the episode description down below. Jose, last question before we close out. I started the Get Over Yourself podcast almost 4 years ago now with a goal in mind of helping business owners and entrepreneurs learn that it isn't just about their bottom line, what revenue is going to go into their pockets, but how they can give back to their communities and the people who have kind of built them up around them. So in your opinion, what does the term get over yourself mean to you? And how do you think you could apply that into both your personal life as well as the brand of Otishi?
With the term get over yourself, I think the best way to apply it, and what I did, so there was this moment in my life where I was really just chasing all money, I mean, that's why I got that cushy job as an engineer. That's why I tried to start business in the first place, But ultimately, I realized that the money will always follow. It does. It's great, but it shouldn't be the end goal, because you're never going to reach it. You're never going to be satisfied. Instead, I kind of got over that, and I realized, there's a bigger purpose, and for me, that's kind of like it is kind of helping other people, but it's mostly like helping my future kids. I want to create a family that is full of amazing individuals, people that can bless the world, people that can achieve their dreams, And so for me now, like the decisions I make, the things that I do, it's not just for myself, it's for my kids, in the future, so that they can become these stellar individuals and do bigger and greater things that I couldn't do, kind of like what my dad did himself. He got over himself, came to the US for me. Now I want to build this company. I want to do these great things, bless the community, and I want my kids to be impacted by that so that they can do even bigger and better things.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, once again, everybody, thank you, Jose, for joining us on today's episode of the Get Over Yourself podcast. If you want to ever reach out to Jose, check out Otishi or anything like that, the episode description will have all the links necessary. We'll see you guys next week for another episode of the Get Over Yourself podcast.